We've all heard of the conventional wisdom to pay yourself first and save 10 to 15% of your income so that your future self won't have to worry about eating canned tuna or ramen noodles all day. And if we rewind back to the 1970s, which represented the absolute peak savings rate in American households, the average household was actually able to save about 12.7% of their income. Fast forward to 2022, however, and the average American household savings rate is a miserable 3.4%. And if you think Canadians are doing any better, think again, because the average Canadian household savings rate is 5.7%. And last year, Stats Canada reported that 1 in 4 Canadians would not be able to meet the needs of a $500 emergency. Now, if you want to go against the financial grain and avoid eating just ramen noodles and tuna all day, listen up. Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. My name is Aaron. I'm a 4th-year financial advisor and certified financial planner. And in today's video, we're actually going to talk about a few of the tips and tricks that you can implement to increase your savings rate and ensure that you don't end up like the majority of Americans or Canadians. I'll give you the strategies, methodologies, and proven actionable steps that you can take today so that you can go from saving nothing to not nothing. The first strategy is to get smart. Tony Robbins has this quote that says, "People are not lazy, they just do not have goals that actually inspire them." I run into this all the time. Most of my clients or friends who are trying to save more money but can't aren't necessarily struggling or living paycheck to paycheck. They're simply just not motivated enough to save for the particular goal in mind, which actually kind of makes sense. You know, I don't really know what I'm going to be doing even this weekend, let alone 5 years from now or all the way in retirement. And if you think about it, when most people are asked why they're saving for retirement, the reasoning usually ends up being it's something that they think that they should be doing, or their advisor or their parents told them to do so, rather than something that they genuinely want to do on their own. So the first strategy is actually quite simple. In order to get motivated to actually achieve a goal, it's better to start by just defining it in general. And there's tons of different frameworks out there on how to define goals, but the one that I usually come back to and I usually recommend people is called the SMART framework. And you may have heard this before, but the word SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. So for example, instead of saying something like, "I want to retire," it's much better to say something like, "I want to retire at 50 years old, and when I retire, I want to have an after-tax income of $80,000 so that I can do the things I want to for the rest of my life." Immediately, just by doing this, it forces you to think about a couple things. Number one, what it's exactly like to retire at 50. And number two, what $80,000 feels like right now, and being able to have that same lifestyle in retirement is something that you can actually resonate with. And if you can resonate with it on a deeper level, it's going to increase your motivation right now to actually do the things it takes for you to actually get to the goal. So in a study done in 1986 in the Journal of Applied Psychology, it was concluded that these SMART goals of this type of framework actually led to substantially higher rates of success with goals because of 3 reasons. Number 1 is the motivational factor through visualization. Number 2 is the social factor with your peers and your friends. And number 3 is that it allowed individuals to actually connect with their core values before they embark on setting out these goals for their future. And the more you align with your values, the better off you'll be in creating the goals that you actually want to stick to. So an actionable tip here for you would be to actually write out the goals that you want to save for and use this SMART framework to help identify the goals a little further. This should spark your motivation and therefore increase your level of saving. Tip number 2 is to mentally account. So in psychology, there's this idea known as mental accounting, and it's the tendency to categorize and assign different values to money based on its source. For example, I have a lot of friends and some clients who are much more likely to spend their annual tax return on something like a vacation or nice new furniture rather than spending the money they get throughout the year on their paychecks. And it's basically this idea that we create these categories in our head for what different sources of money will be used for. So in most cases, mental accounting is actually seen as a bad thing, but there can be an argument made of how it can actually help us with our savings. The idea is that we can mentally separate the money to serve different purposes in our lives. In a 2019 study titled "Mental Accounting in the Context of Savings and Credit Decisions, Evidence from Poland," it was found that creating mental accounts can help organize personal finance and thus promotes the achieving of goals and saving, which means that the psychological need of safety in the human brain is met. So an actionable tip here is, instead of categorizing our mental money accounts by source, which can actually lead to poor decision making, it's better for us to categorize these mental money accounts by spend. Now, I'm not a big fan of budgets, but I definitely see some value in the different rules that are created for different types of budgets. You know, there's the 50-30-20 rule, there's the 70-20-10 rule. My personal favorite that I share with a lot of people actually comes from Meet Sethi, where he says that 10% of your take-home pay should go towards saving for like a down payment or an emergency fund, 10% should go towards your investing, 60% should go towards fixed and variable monthly necessities, and then the last 20% should go towards guilt-free spending on whatever you want. Real quick, guys, I just want to say thank you for watching the video. This is actually my first ever YouTube video, so I really do appreciate it. And if you are enjoying it so far, hit the like button, because apparently that's like a good thing for the YouTube algorithm. And I'll be sure to continue to upload more content just like this. All right, back to the video. Automation Nation. So currently in America, there is $33.6 trillion sitting in US retirement accounts. And of that 33.6 trillion, 20 trillion is sitting in employee-sponsored savings plans or pension plans. One of the biggest reasons as to why almost 2/3 of the total amount of money saved for retirement in the United States is in these savings plans is because that it's oftentimes an automatic contribution that is made off of an individual's paycheck. Automating your savings is by far one of the most effective ways to save money without having to worry about discipline or willpower. By setting up these automatic deposits or transfers from your checking account to your savings or your investment account, you can ensure that every single month you have a portion of your income going towards your long-term goals without having to exert any willpower or even think about it. One of my favorite books in personal finance is called Nudge by Richard Thaler, and it's more of a psychology book than it is a finance book, but it's filled with these psychological hacks to increase your health, your wealth, and your happiness. And he specifically makes reference to how important it is to automate your savings. In a 2001 study, researchers found that individuals who were automatically opted into a savings plan were twice as likely to participate in that plan than those who had to manually opt in on their own. In a 2006 study that was very similar, a group of professors found that individuals who actually increased their savings automatically as their income went up over the years had about 40% more savings in total at retirement than those who saved a steady amount over the years. And this is actually due to a common theory known as Parkinson's law. So this is a concept coined by Cyril Parkinson, where he stated that work expands to fill the time that is available for its completion. So basically, whether you give yourself either 1 hour or 10 hours to complete something, it'll take you exactly that amount of time to complete it. And the same thing can be said about money. Parkinson's law would state that the expenses that you have will expand to fill the amount of money that you have available. So whether you have $500 or $1,000 available for groceries, at the end of the month, you will likely end up overspending to use that entire amount. And this is why there are some people out there who are genuinely able to save like 75% of their income. And the reason being is that the moment that it comes into their account, it's automated and transferred and contributed out of their account into their savings or investment plan. You can't spend what you don't see. What they see is the 25% that's available in their account to be spent on their daily lifestyle. Now, I'm not saying that you need to save 75% of your income, but what I am saying is that we've got a few actionable tips here that you can actually follow. Number one is to make sure that you are enrolled in your employer savings plan. Number two is to make sure that you have automated savings set up for exactly 1 day after you get paid. Whatever your goal is, whether it's 10% or 75%, it's automatically coming out of your account the day after you get paid. Number three is to make sure that you are pre-committed to have your savings increase as your salary increases. What I do is set a simple calendar reminder at the beginning of every January to ensure that my amount that I am saving is correlated to the increase of income I got that year. Number 4 is an extra hack that you can implement where you actually save the extra change that you don't spend on your purchases. So basically what I mean is that if you spend $21.12 on dinner, you can round up to an even 22 and save the 88 cents. And if you don't think this moves the needle, I actually tried this out for a month and I ended up saving over 56 extra dollars just by rounding up my purchases. In the United States, there are apps like Acorns or Chime, and in Canada, there are apps like Mocha or Wealthsimple Roundup. Evidence-based tip number 4 is to use social support. Social support can be an extremely powerful motivator for behavioral change, especially when it comes to increasing your savings. When you share your savings goals with like friends or family, you receive both encouragement and accountability, which can help you stay motivated and stay on track no matter what goal it is that you set for yourself. There was actually a study done in the Journal of Economic Psychology where they looked at over 12,000 people across 17 different countries, and they controlled for things like age, income, and education, and they had found that individuals who were married actually ended up saving more than individuals who were single or not in relationships. In another study conducted in 2019 titled "Does Marriage Work as a Savings Commitment Device?" it was found that individuals are much less present biased when making joint decisions with their partners, especially when it comes to saving and financial goals. And honestly, as I spend more and more time in my career, I'm starting to realize that I'm much more of an accountability coach than I am a strategy coach. So an actionable tip here would be to find an accountability partner or advisor to commit to start or increase your savings. If you make your goal extremely clear to them and you don't end up sticking to that goal, you not only deal with this trivial cost of not achieving your goal, but you also have to deal with some underlying social cost of almost seeing yourself as a failure in the eyes of this person. And I'm only kind of kidding about that. And one last big bonus tip, guys, which kind of goes without saying, it's to make more money. I know that may sound a little trite or condescending, but the reason why I say it is because it illustrates the point that the amount that you save is based on 2 variables: the amount that you make minus the amount that you spend. The amount that you save is literally just the discrepancy between the two. In one of my favorite personal finance books called Just Keep Buying by Nick Majuli, he took a look at the difference between the savings rates of the top 20% of earners in the United States and the bottom 20% of earners in the United States. So the lowest 20% of earners in America had an after-tax income of $1,020 per month, and they had spent an average of $1,947 on the 4 main costs, being shelter, food, transportation, and healthcare. They were spending more than they earned. But then he looked at the top 20% of households, and they were making about $14,300 after tax, and they were only spending $6,500 on those 4 main categories. So compared to the first group, this group was making 14.4 times more income, whereas they were only spending 3.3 times as much on these 4 main categories of expenses. And I know we all know that one person who makes a ton of money and spends it all, but those are exceptions to the rule. And if we go back to the original point, being that the 2 variables that contribute to our ability to save is our income and our spending, the more we make, the more likely we will have a discrepancy available to save. And if we combine this with the 4 tips that were mentioned before, we're almost guaranteed to be set up for success in our goal to be able to save more per month. There you have it, guys, an evidence-based guide to saving more money. If you guys made it this far, be sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys in the next one.